India is surrounded, not metaphorically, not as a political talking point, literally surrounded by two nuclear-armed nations who have a secret pact, shared missiles, and a coordinated military strategy designed for one single purpose: to fight India on two fronts at the same time. Here's what nobody is asking out loud. If war broke out tomorrow, not a skirmish, not a border clash, a real war, could India survive it? And more importantly, who actually wants that war to happen? Because the answer to that second question is not who you think. There are players in this story that never appear on a map, never fire a single bullet, but they've been quietly building the conditions for this conflict for over 60 years. Stay with me, because this goes much deeper than borders. Let's go back 1962. India and China fight a border war in the Himalayas. India loses badly, humiliatingly. The scars of that defeat never fully healed in New Delhi. Then, 1965, India and Pakistan go to war over Kashmir. Then again in 1971. Then again in 1999 in Kargil. Every single time, China watched, observed, and slowly, quietly moved closer to Pakistan. Not because they liked Pakistan, not because they shared culture, religion, or values, but because Pakistan was something far more valuable to China. Pakistan was a weapon, and China spent decades sharpening it. Layer 1, the pact that isn't supposed to exist. Here's the fact most analysts quietly acknowledge but rarely say on camera. China and Pakistan have what strategists call an all-weather friendship. That's the official term. Sounds harmless, right? But here's the implication. All-weather means unconditional. It means, regardless of what happens, war, sanctions, international pressure, we stand together. China has provided Pakistan with nuclear technology, ballistic missile systems, fighter jet components, and satellite intelligence, not as aid, not as charity, as investment. And here's the deeper reveal. China's military planners have a doctrine called two-front pressure. The idea is brutally simple. If India ever challenges China in the Himalayas, Pakistan activates in the West. India bleeds from both sides simultaneously. Its military, stretched thin across 4,000 kilometers, collapses under the weight of a two-front war. This isn't speculation. Indian defense documents have explicitly named this as their primary threat scenario. But here's where it gets interesting. Layer 2. The numbers game India can't win easily. Let's talk raw power. China's military budget in 2024, $225 billion. India's, around $74 billion. Pakistan adds another $6 to $7 billion. China has the world's largest standing army, a rapidly modernizing navy, fifth-generation stealth fighters, hypersonic missiles. Pakistan has over 165 nuclear warheads, tactical nuclear weapons specifically designed for battlefield use against India, and the declared doctrine to use them first if it feels existentially threatened. Now here's the part that keeps Indian strategists awake at night. India has a no-first-use nuclear policy, meaning India won't launch nukes unless nukes are used against it first. Pakistan knows this, and they've built their entire nuclear strategy around exploiting that restraint. What most people don't realize is this isn't a fair fight that India is preparing for. It's a trap, a carefully designed strategic trap, decades in the making. But India isn't just sitting there, and this is where everything changes. Layer 3, India's hidden edge. India has been quietly doing something that most Western analysts underestimated until very recently. They've been building, not just military hardware, something more dangerous: strategic depth. The BrahMos missile, the fastest supersonic cruise missile in the world. It can strike targets in Pakistan before radar systems even process the launch. The S-400 air defense system purchased from Russia, despite intense American pressure not to buy it, creating an air defense bubble over northern India that can track and intercept Pakistani F-16s and Chinese stealth fighters simultaneously. Mountain Strike Corps, a specialized military formation India created specifically for high-altitude warfare against China in the Himalayas, trained to fight at 15,000 feet, in temperatures of -30. And then there's the intelligence layer. India's raw, the Research and Analysis Wing, has operatives embedded inside both Pakistan and China's proxy networks. The level of intelligence India has accumulated about Pakistani military positions, Chinese infrastructure projects, and coordination channels between the two is, by several accounts, extraordinary. Here's the implication. India may look outgunned on paper, but it's not fighting blind. And here's the deeper reveal. India has something neither China nor Pakistan has learned to neutralize yet: geography. The oh shit moment. Everyone talks about China's military power. Everyone talks about Pakistan's nuclear arsenal. But nobody talks about the one thing that makes India's position potentially undefeatable in a defensive war: the Himalayas. China's Western Theater, the military zone that faces India, is the most logistically nightmarish region on the planet. Roads that collapse under heavy armor, mountain passes that close for months, supply lines that stretch thousands of kilometers through unstable terrain. In 1962, China won because India was unprepared, under-equipped, and completely shocked. That war cannot be replicated in 2025 because India now has roads in those mountains, underground bunkers, pre-positioned ammunition depots, forward air bases at altitudes that Chinese jets can barely reach with full weapons loads. But here's the twist that shifts everything. China doesn't actually need to win a war with India. They just need India to lose focus. Think about what's happening right now while you're watching this. China is building ports in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Myanmar, wrapping India in a ring of Chinese-backed infrastructure that doubles as military positioning. They call it the Belt and Road Initiative. India calls it something else: the string of pearls, a noose, slowly tightening. And Pakistan isn't just a military partner in this. Pakistan is the anchor of that noose. The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, a $62 billion infrastructure project that runs straight through Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, territories India legally claims as its own. China just built a highway through land India considers stolen, and the world said nothing. The real game, here's what this is really about. It was never just about territory. It was never just about Kashmir or the Himalayan border or a few disputed mountain peaks. This is about the 21st century's power architecture. China has a vision, a specific, documented strategic vision to be the dominant global power by 2049, the centenary of the Communist Party. India is the only country in the world that can demographically, economically, and militarily challenge that vision from within Asia. Not the United States, not Europe, India. By 2027, India will surpass China in population. By 2030, potentially in economic growth rate. India is building domestic semiconductor capacity, space infrastructure, deep-sea mining capability, and a blue water navy that will eventually project power into the Indian Ocean, which China desperately needs for its energy supply lines. Every oil tanker that fuels China's economy passes through waters that India could, theoretically, block. China cannot allow India to become a peer competitor. This is why Pakistan is not just a neighbor to China. Pakistan is a strategic insurance policy. Keep India permanently distracted, permanently wounded, permanently looking west so it never fully looks east. And here's the part that should disturb you. It's been working. Make it personal. Let's zoom out for a moment. You might be thinking, this is a regional conflict, geopolitics, military strategy. What does this have to do with me? Everything. If India is destabilized, economically, militarily, psychologically, the ripple effects hit every corner of the world. India is the world's largest democracy. If it buckles under two-front pressure, what does that say about the viability of democratic systems in the face of authoritarian coordination? India's pharmaceutical industry supplies 60% of the world's generic medicines. India's IT sector powers the digital infrastructure of hundreds of global companies. Indian engineers are inside NASA, inside the biggest tech firms, inside the financial systems that run global markets. A war involving India is not a contained regional event. It's a civilizational disruption. And here's what makes it more personal. The pressure on India is not just military. It's economic, it's informational. Chinese apps, Chinese investment, Chinese tech infrastructure were quietly embedding inside Indian systems until India started banning them in 2020. Pakistan-backed influence networks spread disinformation across social media to keep Indian society fractured along religious and ethnic lines. The battlefield isn't just the Himalayas anymore. It's your phone screen. It's the news you consume. It's the narrative you believe about who the aggressor is and who the victim is. Final layer. Can India actually win? So let's answer the question. Can India fight China and Pakistan together? The honest answer, and this is the answer that military analysts give behind closed doors, is it depends on which India shows up. A divided India, fighting itself over internal politics while its borders are threatened? No, it cannot. An India that has unified command, pre-positioned forces, functional intelligence networks, and the psychological resolve to absorb a first strike and respond with devastating precision. That India, yes, it can hold, it can hurt both adversaries simultaneously. It will bleed, badly, but it will not collapse. Here's what India has that neither China nor Pakistan can easily counter: motivation. Chinese soldiers fighting in the Himalayas are far from home, fighting for geopolitical interest in terrain they don't understand, for a government they don't question but don't personally feel tied to. Indian soldiers in those same mountains are defending land their families have lived near for generations. They've trained their entire careers for this exact scenario, and, critically, they've already bled there. In Galwan in 2020, Indian soldiers fought Chinese troops with iron rods in hand-to-hand combat at 14,000 feet and didn't retreat. That moment sent a message that China's military planners are still processing. India will not be easy. Open loop, close, but not fully. But here's the question I want to leave with you. We've talked about military power, nuclear doctrine, strategic geography, economic stakes, but we haven't talked about the one variable that cannot be calculated: the decision makers. Wars are not started by armies, they're started by individuals, men in rooms, looking at maps, calculating risks, and deciding whether the moment is right. Somewhere in Beijing, that calculation is being updated continuously. Somewhere in Rawalpindi, in Pakistan's military headquarters, the real seat of power, not Islamabad, that calculation is also being made. And somewhere in New Delhi, India's leadership is watching both rooms. The world has not had a war between nuclear powers, not yet, but the conditions for one, the pressure, the provocation, the two-front architecture, the economic competition, the wounded national pride on all sides have never been more precisely aligned than they are right now. The triangle isn't just a geopolitical concept, it's a loaded weapon, and someone, somewhere, has their hand on the trigger. The question isn't whether India can fight both. The question is, who benefits if it has to? Think about that.